humongous appetite, and we give in to that appetite. Because it's the normal thing to do. And then we justify it by saying this, or this. So here's two thoughts on normal people. And now remember, early on when we talked about this 3 weeks ago, y'all said you wanted to be normal, right? Is that right? Consensus? Everybody wanted to be normal? Yeah? You say you want to be weird now, but I don't know.
Right. And then we changed our mind.
Yeah, you changed it. So here's two thoughts on you, the normal people. Number one, they want what they want now, not later.
Right.
Anybody agree?
Yes.
I want what I want right now, not later. Luke 15. Verse 12. This is the early part of the story about the prodigal son. A man had 2 sons. The younger son told his father, "I want my share of your estate now before you die." So his father agreed to divide his wealth between his sons. A few days later, this younger son packed all his belongings and moved to a distant land where he then wasted his money in wild living. There is called a generation, you know, we've heard the baby boomers and Generation X and yada yada. Do you know that there is a generation called the instant gratification generation? Heard of it? The instant gratification generation. By a show of hands.
Yeah.
Who was born either in the 80s or the 90s? Raise your hands. Raise them up high so everybody can turn around and see. You got Randy and Dusty in the back, Dave and Taylor, Kate. Well, put your hand down.
What has he got his hand up?
Yeah, he said 1880. The 1980s, you squirrel. The 1980s or although the 1980s were the greatest decade ever, and greatest for music and for fashion. But evidently not for y'all, because here, you guys are called Generation Y, the instant gratification generation. Here are 2 things that define you. Take this to heart. Allow this to make you feel good. 60% of that instant gratification generation sleep with their phones so they don't miss calls, texts, or updates during the night. They suffer from a thing called FOMO. FOMO. You remember us talking about FOMO a couple months ago? Anybody remember what that means?
Fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out. Thank you, Randy. And I knew it was legit because Carrie, one day when I went home, she was watching Ellen. She loves Ellen for whatever reason. And Ellen used the term FOMO. I was like, she stole my term. Okay? So, that Taylor, that's you and Dusty. Do you guys sleep with your phones? You were born in the 80s?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Some of us give in to lying too. But okay. Here's another one. And tell me if this describes you guys maybe a little bit. The instant gratification generation wants their career to be on steroids.
Yeah.
They crave the gratification of a pay raise or promotion every few months, and if they don't get it, sometimes they often quit because they don't get that recognition right then and there.
Wow.
Anybody? No? Doesn't ring a bell? Okay. Here's the definition of instant gratification. The desire to experience pleasure or fulfillment without delay or deferment. Basically, it's what you want, and you want it now. That's instant gratification. Okay? Here's the second trait of normal people. You trade the ultimate for the immediate.
Yeah.
You trade the ultimate for the immediate. Now let's go back old school. Let's go back to Genesis. And let's look at 2 brothers named Esau and Jacob. So we turn back to Genesis 25. We're going to kind of camp here for just a little bit. I'm going to wait till you get there, because I want you to follow along. Genesis 25. And we're going to be in verse 27 to start.
Now I'll start bringing my Bible because you're going slower. Because I couldn't keep
I'm going slower because you told me to.
Thank you.
See, I listen.
Next Sunday you'll see me with my
See
book right
there?
here.
See? You gave into your natural desire not to bring your Bible because I went too fast. I told you I was in a mood today. I'm telling you. Ain't nobody safe today.
But I was being weird.
No, that's being normal. Not bringing your Bible to church. All right. Number 2, trade the ultimate for the immediate, Esau and Jacob. Now, background on Esau. Esau was the oldest son. He was a man's man, and if you kind of read about Esau, he was the hunter. I think he played football. I think he varsity lettered, all the way through.
Right.
He was that guy. He was the guy that Dad was proud of.
Right.
That's who Esau was. He had what's called the birthright. You guys know what the birthright is? Inheritance. Because he was the eldest child, he got a double portion of his father's inheritance. Okay? So, lucky for you. Yeah. Just don't ask Dad for it right now. Okay? Probably not a good idea. Okay? And then there's Jacob. Jacob was the mama's boy. Jacob
Poetry.
He probably read poetry. Probably. Yeah. That's who he was. Dad probably wasn't very proud of Jacob.
Oh.
Hang in there with me.
That was like sissy mommy.
He was in the band.
He was in the band. He was in the band.
Flowery pig,
Right.
play guitar.
Right. So we read about these two boys and about something that it transpired between them in chapter 25, verse 27. As the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter. He was an outdoorsman, but Jacob had a quiet temperament, preferring to stay at home. Isaac loved Esau because he enjoyed eating the wild game Esau brought home, but Rebekah loved Jacob. One day when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau arrived home from the wilderness exhausted and hungry. Esau said to Jacob, "I'm starved, give me some of that red stew." This is how Esau got his other name, Edom, which means red. "All right," Jacob replied, "but trade me your rights as the firstborn son." Now, he was a mama's boy, but he was smart. "Look, I am dying of starvation," said Esau. "What good is my birthright to me now?" But Jacob said, "First you must swear that your birthright is mine." So Esau swore an oath, thereby selling all his rights as the firstborn to his brother Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and lentil stew. Esau ate the meal, then got up and left. He showed contempt for his rights as the firstborn. Could you be any more stupid? Has anybody ever been so hungry that you're willing to sell the farm to get something to eat? I mean, think about it. Think about it. You read this story and you think, stupid, short-sighted, foolish. You're going to satisfy an immediate need by giving away what you have for the rest of your life. He traded the ultimate for the immediate for what? What did he trade it for?
Meal.
Instant gratification. It was a stupid bowl of stew that probably wasn't good anyway. But I want you to hang on to that, because past the funny ha-ha of it, there's a real teaching. What's the obvious question when we read that? The obvious question is this: who would trade their birthright? Because I can promise you that the eldest son back in those days knew what the birthright was. They knew the inheritance part. And the obvious question is, who in the world would sell their birthright for some food? Right? Here's the obvious answer. You ready for it? Normal people do it every day. Let's get past Old Testament times. Let's talk about right now. Normal people trade their birthrights for stew every single day. Here's an example. How about the young girl who starves for attention, who wants to be loved, who wants to have affection in her life? And how about that shrewd boy that says, if you love me, you will. And she does. And what she has saved, she gives, and he takes what does not belong to him. Why? Because she gives in to her natural desire for affection. And she gives up her birthright for that. How about the husband who loves his wife, loves his children, and loves God? But then he hits that button on the internet. And he sells his birthright for immediate gratification. How about the wife who's struggling at home and thinks about everything wrong with her husband and then has a conversation with a male coworker? About the man who wants to provide for his family, wants to make sure that his wife and his kids has everything that he never had. So he climbs the corporate ladder, he works extra hours, and he trades his relationships for his own rewards. And we have the audacity to ask the question, who would be so stupid as to trade their birthright for gold? Because normal people do it every single day. What's your bowl of stew? What is it? Because we all fight it. We all have it. It's all that stew that we don't want to bring to church, that we don't want to talk about, that we don't want to say, hey, don't you pry into my business. Okay, you pry into your own. What's your bowl of stew? Is it addiction? Is it control? Is it popularity? Is it financial gain? What are you selling your birthright to attain? Weird people are very different, and they have very different values. Weird people know that later is better than now. Weird people know that later is better than now. Proverbs 16:32 reads this way. Better to be patient than powerful. Better to have self-control than to conquer a city. Better to be patient than powerful. Better to have self-control than to conquer a city. There's patient in waiting. Here's an example. How about your finances? Proverbs 16:32. 16:32. When it comes to finances, this generation wants the nice house, the nice car, the nice toys, and they get it, and then they have the nice debt and the nice fights. Why? Because that's normal. The weird people say, we're going to live in what we can afford, we're going to buy a cheap fixer-upper, we're going to pay as we go, we're going to sell it and we're going to buy another one, we're not going to go into debt, we're going to pay cash for what we can afford. That's what weird people do. The other very heavy desire that we've kind of talked about already, the normal people say, I want it now, everybody else does it, so I'm just going to go do it. Who really cares? Old Testament is old news. Is it? Weird people say, I don't want it now, I want it right. Instant gratification or eternal? The second thing that weird people do is they seek God until His desires become theirs. Weird people seek God until His desires become their desires. If you flip back to Psalms, Now go to Psalm chapter 37. Psalm 37.